Now, KSI. I think most people are familiar with KSI, a guy who started off as just a YouTuber, but is now doing so many more things, and one of those things being making music. Like a lot of people already know, KSI is a rapper, and since that's the case, I have a couple things to say about him as a rapper. With that being said, in this video, I want to talk about the rapper KSI. I want to have a little discussion about his music overall. What do I think about it? The good, the bad. Apart from that, I also want to discuss how his rap career has progressed throughout the years. He very recently dropped a project, so we're gonna touch on that as well. With that being said, KSI the rapper. Let's talk about it. Now, first of all, who is KSI? I'm gonna go ahead and assume that the majority of people who are watching this either know about KSI, are actual fans of him, or have at least maybe seen his face in different places, or on the other hand, maybe you're not too familiar with who he is at all. KSI not only does a lot of things these days, but he is a lot of things these days. But his identity as a YouTuber and just content creator in general is what most people recognize him for. He first started creating content on YouTube back in April of 2008 on a channel called Jai Jr. He posted a handful of FIFA gaming videos on there and then stopped. After that, in July 2009 is when he created his second channel, which became his main one, the channel that eventually took him to the top of the YouTube game. KSI built his channel off of gaming videos, specifically FIFA commentaries. That was the bread and butter of his content. He got a lot of success through only doing that, but as the years kept on passing, he started expanding his content by doing a bunch of different things. One really big theme throughout his content was comedy. KSI is a very charismatic and energetic guy, and he channeled that energy into his videos and found major success. Let's skip all the boring in-betweens because I'm not really here to do a review of him as a YouTuber. I'll leave that for someone else. Fast forward to 2021 and KSI is way more than just a YouTuber. He's accumulated over 23 million subscribers, has became one of the most successful self-made young creators of this generation. I could go on and on and on, but that's who KSI is. A guy who started off on YouTube over a decade ago, found a lot of success in that, and then became way bigger than what he initially got known for. Now on to the meat and potatoes of this video, which is KSI and rap. When exactly did KSI start rapping though? Contrary to what most people might think, KSI didn't just start rapping, because that's what most people seem to think from what I've seen at least. Anyway, KSI dabbled in rap way back when he started his first channel in 2008.
This is the cell, this is a battery, and that's it from...
Yes, that was KSI rapping with some FIFA in the background over 10 years ago. I guess you could call that the beginning of his rap journey. Although he wasn't really making music seriously back then, he was still kinda dabbling in that world. KSI also later started combining his YouTube skits with rapping.
That's bestiality. Shut up, bitch, I don't care, I just want my horse all G.
Let's just pretend like he didn't say that last part. Moving on. Now, KSI's first official rap song was Lamborghini, which dropped in March of 2015. That was his first real official drop, and that dropped over 6 years ago. Sometime after this, KSI got picked up by a record label, Island Records to be specific. He signed a 3 EP deal with Island Records. The first EP he dropped under them was titled Keep Up. The second one was Jump Around, which came out in October 2016. He followed that up with an EP titled Space. This project was actually independently released despite KSI still being signed to his label. KSI's last drop under his record label was Distractions, which came out in September 2017. Now, 1 week before the release of this EP, KSI announced that he would officially be parting ways with Island Records after Distractions dropped, which he did. KSI was, after this, officially an independent rapper. In November 2019, however, KSI officially became a signed rapper once again. He struck a deal with RBC Records. This is definitely when KSI started making his mark as a rapper. This new label situation he had was a million times better than the first deal he had with Island Records. This is kind of when things started to come together for KSI. Before this, I feel like he was a little bit all over the place, not only music wise, but even the surface level stuff like his artwork, which later, after he transitioned into this other label situation, he started improving on. And on top of that, his music videos started getting way better, and just overall, he started stepping his game up. He was now in a place where he was in the right label situation, which is something I think has done wonders for KSI, by the way. I mean, his influence as a successful personality on the internet is huge, but not so huge to the point where he could have done what he's currently doing without a record label. KSI and the YouTube rapper label though. A label who affects every single rapper out there who's ever been considered a YouTube rapper, and it's most definitely affected KSI. After all, KSI is a guy who started off as a YouTuber and later transitioned into making music, rapping specifically. The level of success he's gotten to as a content creator has most definitely held him back from solidifying himself as a rapper in the eyes of the public. At the end of the day, as far as the people know, KSI is a YouTuber who had a strong passion for rapping, not a rapper who had a strong passion for being a YouTuber. What people identify you as from a perception perspective is obviously huge, and the more people identify you with being a specific thing, in this case KSI and him being a YouTuber, the harder it becomes to stray away from that label. DDG is a really great comparison to make here, because just like KSI, DDG started off being a YouTuber. He then later, just like KSI, dabbled into rap, of course then started dropping music consistently and was simultaneously being a full-time content creator. DDG's music instantly started connecting with people, which isn't something that happened on KSI's end. On top of that, KSI had this really big mountain of improvement in front of him when he started, which DDG didn't. In DDG's case, he's had a couple things as an advantages that have played towards his success big time. The first one was, like I said, his music instantly started connecting with a big majority of his fans, so he had a pretty strong introduction. That's huge. The second one is the improvement aspect. DDG's improvement rate ever since he started dropping consistently has been crazy. I think not only him, but just people felt like he belonged in the industry as a rapper, especially considering the kind of music he makes. Just looking at DDG from a positioning perspective, he doesn't look or sound out of place, and that's the third advantage. His sound overall is in line with the kind of rapper he is. DDG's transition from a YouTuber to a rapper, I feel like has been really natural, really effortless. On top of that, his entire come up is a textbook example of how that transition is supposed to be executed. Another thing that's played towards his success, unlike KSI, DDG never became a mainstream face in the YouTube world, so DDG has had the luxury of his music defining him instead of his YouTube personality being at the forefront of his success. Now, the DDG comparison aside, let's talk about KSI's debut album, Dissimulation, which came out back in May of 2020. This was a project that had a lot of heavy features on it. That Lil Baby and Rick Ross song by KSI featuring another artist by the name of SX, that's one. He also had a lot of other notable features on it like Offset, Trippie Redd, Jeremiah, Lil Pump, Smoke Perp. Dissimulation was KSI's debut album though. Up until this point, he had only dropped a bunch of singles and EPs. He did actually release an album titled New Age in 2019. However, it was a collab album with another artist by the name of Randolph, so it wasn't a solo album, which is why that doesn't count as his debut. Moving on. Dissimulation though, what was the verdict on this one? Well, personally, I didn't really even know what to expect from a full-length KSI project, so my expectations for this album, I don't really have any. That aside, personally, I wasn't really a fan of this project at all. Didn't really hit for me. KSI is a guy who I believe is somewhat cut above in comparison to your average YouTube rapper, but I don't think he's all that in comparison to an actual industry rapper. As a matter of fact, I think KSI does have a lot of work to do if he's at least going to be mentioned in the conversations. I don't really get a strong impression from Dissimulation. Dissimulation didn't leave me with a lot to chew on as far as KSI as a rapper and just artists in general. Putting Dissimulation aside, let's talk about this new KSI release that came out about 2 weeks ago. All Over the Place is KSI's second studio album. It dropped on the 16th of July. The album's release date was officially announced back in April. By that point, 3 songs that ended up on the album were already out. The first one was Really Love, the second one was Don't Play, and the third one was Patience, the song with that Polo G feature. No pun intended, but this album was kinda all over the place. It had a bunch of songs on it with a very heavy pop infused sound. Some of them had that standard trap sound we're all very familiar with. One song had a little bit of that drill sauce to it. Just a bunch of different sounding songs in one project. And I'm not the one to complain about diversity. That's something I really appreciate actually. However, I don't really get a sense of who KSI as a rapper is on this project either. Just like how I left Dissimulation not feeling like I got a lot to chew on as far as who KSI actually is as an artist, I felt the exact same after leaving this project. And I guess this highlights the quote-unquote issue with KSI's music and him as a rapper. KSI doesn't really, as far as I can hear right now at least, doesn't really have an identity in his music. That's something he hopefully improves on later down the road, but at this very moment, I don't hear too much of him as an artist in his music, if that makes any sense. Now obviously I hear him, but I don't hear him. I'm not really connecting with KSI's music too much, and this is a personal take, so you might feel different. I think KSI is not only missing that identity piece I was talking about, but I also think he's missing impact. KSI is a rapper, an artist who makes music, right? But what's the real impact of KSI's music? And I just want to make this clear, that's not something that only comes with having a message in your music. A lot of people associate having impact with being lyrical, spiritual, individual. I'm more so referring to something that can't really be pointed out. I'm talking about that feeling you get when you're listening to an artist and you hear something in their music that blows you away a little. There's a lot of artists out there who you personally may not be a fan of, but you recognize why so many people are rocking with them. And that recognition is even possible due to the impact their music had on you. For KSI, I think he's missing that it factor, that thing that makes you go, I see why so many people are going so hard for the rapper KSI. With that being said, KSI does actually shine somewhere. For example, the song Holiday from his album is currently one of the more successful songs from his project. Ironically enough, the biggest KSI songs are the ones your average rap fan is not gonna like. I'm talking about songs like Holiday or Don't Play or Lighter, which isn't KSI's own record. He's just a feature on it. What those songs that I just mentioned all have in common is, and by the way, add Patience to the list, you can hear that they were made for the radio, and those songs are all doing fairly well success-wise in terms of streams, so mission accomplished. I think records like Holidays where KSI could see massive success. Again, not the kind of song your average rap fan would listen to, but hey, why pander to a demographic that's not a part of your fan base anyway? It's pointless and counterintuitive. Now, all that aside, some of my final thoughts on KSI as a rapper and just his music in general. I think KSI still has a lot of work to do as a rapper and just artist in general. The biggest thing holding him back, I think, is the identity aspect. KSI has, of course, proven that he can create something worth listening to, and he's gained a lot of fans as the rapper KSI, but the question still stands. Who exactly is the rapper KSI? What does he not only stand for, but does he have a lane that he can dominate and own better than any artist out there can? I don't think that KSI has proved that he can yet. I hope he's in it for the long haul though, because I'd like to see KSI improving and eventually reaching his full potential. Will he get to that place in the future? Well, you know what they say. Only time will tell. But yeah, KSI, the rapper, and my take on his music. I feel like I had to do this video. I mean, KSI is out here doing this music thing, really taking it seriously and running with it. A lot of people have been talking about his music because he is such a big name on the internet. So I just had to give my perspective on his music and him as a rapper. With that being said, enough of me. What do you think about KSI's music? Any thoughts on KSI as a rapper? Are you personally a fan of him? Do you consider him a YouTube rapper like a lot of other people do? And last but not least, any thoughts on this new album he just dropped? Definitely let me know in the comment section below, and let's talk about this.